Der William Paul Young ist der Autor vom Bestseller «Die Hütte». In dieser Geschichte kämpft ein Familienvater mit dem Verlust von seiner kleinen Tochter, die von einem Serienmörder umgebracht wird. Der William Paul Young hat biografische Erlebnisse in den Roman einfließen lassen. Wir haben den kanadischen Autor und Redner in Zürich getroffen, wo er in der reformierten Kirche Bühl geredet hat.
But my sexual abuse started at 5. And part of the reason that there's a 5-year-old, 6-year-old in the shack who was murdered is because the child in me was murdered at that age. And when I went to boarding school at 6, the big boys would come at night. My emotions are not about the fact that I'm still wounded, but the fact that the memories are there. And the suffering still remains in me and always will. But I've watched God in me redeem that suffering. But it took a long, long time. And so all of that I packed up and I put in my inside world. That's the imagery of the shack. It's the house on the inside.
Diese Hütte hier in der Nähe von Zürich erinnert an das zentrale Element im Roman Die Hütte, ein Wochenende mit Gott von William Paul Young.
The shack is your inside house. You know, it's the inner person. And for some of us, maybe many of us, it is a broken down place because of trauma and tragedy and bad history, bad experience. And so some people have a beautiful inside house. Mine wasn't.
Young macht bereits als kleiner Junge traumatische Erfahrungen. Er wächst in einem Stamm in Papua New Guinea auf. Seine Eltern sind Missionare.
My relationship with my father was very difficult. He was an abusive disciplinarian, and back then they called it strict, you know. And then for me, sexual abuse began around 5 years old, not inside my family, but in the world outside. And then at 6, I was sent away to boarding school, and the abuse continued there. So there were many issues of abandonment. As a young man, I became a perfectionist performer, and later my father was an itinerant pastor. I went to 13 schools before I graduated high school, and so I no longer had a capacity to miss anyone because every hello was a goodbye, just very coming. And but I learned really well how to live, taking, you know, hypervigilant, where you're constantly aware of your surroundings. You can read what people want from you, and you compartmentalize. You hide your emotional world and break it into behind walls. When my father would come at me with his fury, I had 2 defenses. One was to lie and see if I could find my way out, but a lot of times I didn't even know why he was so angry. And the second one was to try to convince him that I was promising that I would do better. And I would literally yell at him, "I'll be good, I'll be good, I'll be good, I'll be good." And by doing that, I was constantly telling myself, "You're bad, you're bad, you're bad." And I felt that way. And the message I got was, you don't matter. You're here to be used by others. You are a piece of garbage. And I got that from my father. I got that from the sexual abuse. I got that from the abandonment. And then as I grew up, I got it from people's opinions. And I'm a perfectionist performer. I had to live perfectly in order to try to please people. And then I got it also from my theology, and because I was told that I had a sin nature and that I was totally depraved and those kinds of things. And so God thought what my father thought, and I painted the face of God with the face of my father, which took a long, long time to begin to change.
William Paul Young heiratet im Alter von 24 und wird Vater von 6 Kindern. Seine Ehe ist schwierig. Young konsumiert Pornografie und hat später eine Affäre mit einer Freundin seiner Frau. Doch nach 14 Ehejahren geht es nicht mehr so weiter.
I was exposed, and I was 38 years old. Our 6th child had just been born, and I mean, it was the end of the world for me. And I either had to find a way to change or just kill myself because I didn't want to hurt anybody anymore. And that started an 11-year journey of trying to find a way to heal. And so all of these things, you know, my addictions, my brokenness and how it expressed itself, my relationship with my father, all of these inside things I had to deal with. And I pulled the phone book off and I look under counselors, and I just picked one. And that's what began my healing journey.
Seine Frau vergibt ihm und am Ende eines langen Prozesses ist er frei, ohne Geheimnisse, ohne Abhängigkeiten. Danach schreibt er Die Hütte im Alter von 50 Jahren. Eigentlich sollte es ein Geschenk für seine Kinder sein, doch das Buch wird zum Großerfolg und verkauft sich über 20 Millionen Mal. Hier in der Schweiz übernachtet William Paul Young im Hotel Wassberg in Maur. In der Geschichte von Die Hütte gibt es eine Szene der Versöhnung mit dem Hauptdarsteller Mackenzie und seinem Vater.
Dad, Mac, es tut mir so leid. Alles tut mir so leid. Ich war blind und konnte dich nicht sehen. Ich konnte niemanden sehen. Ja, ich weiß. Ich weiß. Ich hatte Angst. Ich wusste nicht, was ich tun sollte. Mein Sohn, ich verzeihe dir. Du bist der Vater geworden, der ich nie sein konnte. Und ich bin so stolz auf dich. Kannst du mir jemals verzeihen?
When I wrote this scene, it really was about me and my father. But it was a hope when I wrote it. It had not happened. And a number of years later, after the shack came out, I went to my father's 80th birthday, and I had forgiven him for the things he had done.
Doch auch diesen Anlass zerstört sein Vater mit seinem Verhalten. Paul flüchtet aus dem Haus.
And it was the middle of winter, and I went for a walk, no coat. I was so angry I couldn't feel the cold. I felt the presence of God around me, but nobody was talking. I didn't want to talk. After a while, I heard, you know, I will be all that to you and more. You know, your father, he hasn't known how to be a father for 60 years. He's not suddenly going to figure it out. I realized something in that moment. I didn't just want God to be my father. I wanted my father. I wanted my father to love me, to see me. And then I realized something. Oh my goodness. All these years, my father had stepped into something and blew things up, and I was the one who planted the bombs. And they're called expectations. When you've lived a life full of expectations, it's hard to let go. But in that moment, I realized that I'm the one that was leading my father into a minefield. But I was the one that, when he blew things up, held it against him. And it changed something in me in that moment. I began to allow my father to be a human being. And my relationship with my father began to change. Two months before my dad passed away suddenly, I had a conversation with him. And in our history together, he had only made 3 phone calls to me over the lifetime of our relationship when I was away from the home. And they were all tragedies. And he always began those conversations with the phrase, "Paul, there's something that I need to tell you." And so my father says 2 months before he passes, "Paul, there's something that I need to tell you." And I go, "Okay, Dad, what?" And he said, "No, this is really important. You need to listen to me." I go, "Okay." "No, Paul, you need to listen to me." I said, "All right, Dad, what?" He goes, "I need you to know that I am really, really, really proud of you. I'm proud of the man you are. I'm proud of the father that you are, the husband. I'm proud of the way that you have impacted the world. If I had had expectations, which I didn't, but if I had, I would have thought, well, it's about time." But I didn't have any expectations, so it was a gift. When you learn to live without expectations, everything becomes a gift.
I thought my origin was garbage.
I would encourage someone to forgive as quickly as possible, as soon as possible, realizing that it's the first step in a process of forgiving. And not to feel bad that it doesn't happen in an instant, but you need to do it for your sake, so that you can then walk in a world without carrying a poison on your shoulders and transmitting that poison to everyone around you. And you'll say, "But they need to pay." And I understand that. But how has that been working for you? How has your carrying unforgiveness and bitterness, how has that made them pay? A lot of them don't care or are dead already. It's an opportunity for your own freedom. And when you make a choice to forgive, you actually change not only yourself, but you change the world.